Hey everyone, welcome to Notion in Motion. I'm Marai, a product designer and Notion ambassador based in Toronto. This episode is pretty special for me since it's the first one. Today, we will be exploring how Florian Bölter is using Notion in a daily life. Let's dive in. So, to start, can you share a bit about yourself, what you do, where are you joining this podcast from, and what are you doing? What are you doing for life?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Florian Bölter, and I am based in Germany, in Hanover to be precise, and I'm a product designer by trade. I work at a company called Juro, which is a legal tech based in the UK, and we are trying to kind of revolutionize how you do contracts, mostly for in-house lawyers. And yeah, but on the side, I also run a project called OpenDoors, which is a platform for junior designers to kind of first of all find suitable jobs and then also to kind of learn how to actually get interviews for those jobs and eventually land them. And I'm a big Notion user, really. I've been with Notion, I think, for definitely a couple of years at this point now. And I do a lot in Notion. If not, well, not everything maybe, but I do do a lot in Notion. Yeah.
For open doors, just a quick addition to that. I totally find insightful feedback from my portfolio as well. So I would recommend to check open doors. If you've never subscribed yet, I would definitely recommend to subscribe it. For Notion, I totally get what you mean. And it is kind of, especially as a designer, we love to see things organized and everything together, and we wanted to access everything at the same time. So I totally
Yeah.
feel you. As a starter, how did you actually find, how did you start using Notion?
That's a good question. So I think, and I really have to think back there, on my very, very, very first design job, which was a very small, very early stage startup in workspace in the UK. And I was a design kind of intern or like volunteer, whatever you want to call it. And they were very unexperienced. Both founders were not from the tech world really. And when I joined the startup, they were handling everything in Trello. And I really liked Trello at the time. I already knew it. And it was like a good way of kind of like having some common ground between the developers and myself. But I found it very hard to organize myself in Trello. And eventually and that was like, must have been 2020 or something. So 5 years ago, I think. And then eventually someone said, there's also Notion. Why not try that? And Notion it was around already and like already I'd say somewhat popular, but definitely not as popular as it is now. And I tried it and I set something up and it just immediately worked for me. Like that is very, very, very rare for me. Like I love tools and I love trying new tools, but actually sticking with a tool is very rare for me. Like it really has to click quite quickly and it has to kind of make sense for me really quickly. And I think the first thing I started to do with Notion that I still do to this day is I organize my own tasks in it. Like, not what concerns anyone else, well, maybe, but like just what I see for myself, what I have to do. That now spans both my work, open doors, uh, but also my personal life and other stuff that I need to do, like write emails, like cancel a contract or something like that. All of that is in Notion now, and that's kind of how it started, I think, for
That's
me. Yeah.
that's really similar for me as well. That if I like a product, I'm just down for it. If it's not clicking in the beginning, it's like maybe
Yeah,
I come back, but the chance
yeah,
is slightly lower.
yeah.
So I totally agree with that. And for the tasks, after I used for my bigger tasks, I started to use also as a to-do list almost, and I created a rabbit hole for that. And
Mm.
and you already jumped for the second question, but more like a if you would give a ratio that you use for your personal life, that amount for work related things, this amount, what would you like to say about it?
Well, that's a good question. So, like, the use case I just explained is just one of the ways that I use Notion at this point. I do use it for a lot more. And again, some of these things are work, open doors, and some are personal. I think it's probably still slightly more for work. I gotta be honest there. Like I think it's probably something like 60 or 70% at least. And then the rest is private. But I think that's just down to the fact that kind of like what I do in my private life not needing that much organization all the time, like some stuff you can just do without. And but I do like, for example, some examples of how I've used it in like personal life is like to basically plan travel. Like I have two kids at this point, and planning a trip is different now than it was. And so just to kind of put all the options down, to compare the pricing and all that kind of stuff all happens in Notion, for example, whenever we plan a trip. That's one thing. Now we're moving house this year in 2 months, and like there's so much to kind of plan, furniture to buy. Then you have to track kind of when to order so it arrives at exactly the right time. All that stuff, everything in Notion, like because the tables are just so convenient for it. It's just so easy to set up. And other tools are either just more inconvenient in terms of like how you set them up, or they just don't have the functionality that you need for this kind of stuff. And so that's for example stuff I use it for. So right now, because we have that house move and everything, I think I use it a lot actually for personal stuff, but like across the board, it's probably still like just like 30% or something. The rest is work. But the
Mhm.
work stuff I use it a lot. Like I think there are definitely days or yeah, days where I spend a bit more time in Notion than I do in Figma, for example. So those days exist quite a bit. And so, yeah, exactly.
Do you usually, sh for example, for the moving part, do you usually share with your wife the Notion page, or do you usually the organizer?
I think overall I am the organizer. Like overall, I'd say that is very much true. But I do share some things with her for sure because sometimes it's easier to just kind of share an overview, share like what you put together and the different options, um, rather than talking about it. So yeah, I definitely share that sometimes. And I think she has like worked with it as well based on that. Like she's seen how powerful it is and what she can do with it and
Mhm.
set up some stuff of her own. She doesn't have that much to organize like I do sometimes, so it's not like she's a power user, but
Mhm.
and she was also the other thing was like she was immediately able to just pick it up like without learning it, which is always great because some of the stuff I built at this point is quite complex actually in terms of like, there's like logic and there's like counting together some numbers, stuff like almost like an Excel sheet at
Yeah.
this point. And still, it's very easy to pick up because the interface is just designed in a way so that nothing is like overcomplicated or seems overcomplicated. So yeah, that's really cool. I love that about Notion.
That's awesome. When you think about all your projects, and you said almost like it's been 5 years, which project were you most proudful of? And if you want, feel free to share your screen so people can see your screen as well because I will share with the video.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So feel free to share your thoughts on that and like why it was proudful for you.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few that I can think of. Let me show you two of them. So just give me a second to set myself up here properly. Um, this is my personal Notion space, but I do use it for a lot of the work as well. So basically, when I started Open Doors, at some point I started doing the social media content, right, for LinkedIn.
Hmm.
At this point, I think exclusively. Um, and in the beginning, I was just writing the posts, like straight in LinkedIn, just thinking, what could I write about? But then I started getting ideas for like a next post or something, and I didn't have anything to put it down. And so I started this Notion database and I started expanding it, Basically now
Hmm.
I have a content calendar. You can see all the content I post is in here. And then I always can already bring the visuals in and the post and also link it to like articles that I post in my newsletter. So I know that like the topic is the same, for example, also tag it. And yeah, sometimes I also put in the link if it performs really well, for example, so I can like remember and go back. And this has grown so much. You can see my idea database is pretty big at this point. There's more content than I could ever do. And then you can see there's a lot in here that I already posted as well. These are
Mhm.
just empty right now because I still have to write the post that I'm going to post next. But yeah, also the calendar really helps. At this point, I'm also sometimes doing sponsored posts for brands. So
Mhm.
in those cases, it's really important to have the date right and also to share the draft with those brands. And Notion does all that for me. I do all of that in Notion, and I wouldn't say that I'm like extremely proud of this because it is very basic, I'd say, in like essence. It's like it's a Kanban board and it's a calendar view, and then also I have like some filter views here for like the best performing posts. Sometimes
Mhm.
that's interesting to go back to, but it this has been so effective and really leveled like up my game because I was able to just kind of like whenever the creation process starts, I gotta just go in here, go through the ideas, or when I know I want to like copy content I did before, I just go to the best performing posts,
Mhm.
like take a look at like how far ago was that, like can I post again about this topic? Is it like long enough ago? And then
Mhm.
I just go in there and have it all at a glance. Like nothing else can do that for me really, other than Notion. That's like something I'm quite happy with, really happy with.
I think that's one of the key points because the prodful projects don't require to be complex, but if it's working super well and like for a very like hard job because planning content and publishing and catching them, tracking them with the links and with the visuals is really hard. I do a very similar thing for my LinkedIn calendar as well, that like what am I gonna share and like
Right.
what are the things that I will have. So I'm totally down for this, and especially the
Yeah.
calendar view is actually really neat that like I didn't think of
Yeah.
that. Maybe I should
Yeah.
implement that one too.
It can be like this, like in the beginning when I just had like one or two posts a week, it doesn't really matter. Like I set this up when I started posting like at least 3 or 4 days a week. Um, and then also the brands coming in to kind of remember that I have to post something at a specific day.
Hmm.
So they would be able to boost it or something. So that came in quite handy at that point. Yeah, absolutely. Fully agree with that. Yeah, and then the second project I think is my portfolio database.
Hmm.
So basically, in my newsletter I have a section on junior portfolios. You know that, right? I think you are featured
Yeah,
at
I'm
some
a
point
yes.
in that. So you are in that database actually, and and so I I started collecting these from people. I don't know. I think 2 years ago. Well, one year and something ago, and you know, I basically wanted to make sure that I gather everything that I need from people
Hmm.
in order to assess them. Because when I did these posts, there were easily 100 submissions sometimes
Hmm.
of portfolios, and I just couldn't track them properly. And also, it is really hard to review them and then know like what to do with them because a lot that I have to be honest, a lot of the portfolios I get they're not material for me to feature because I want to
Hmm.
feature portfolios that are like exceptionally good in one way or another, and
Hmm.
that can function as inspiration for other junior designers so they can like see, oh, these things are done well here. I should maybe do that too. Or I already do this, but maybe not as good as this person, and like see what
Hmm.
else they can do to get that extra step. And so I need to classify them, and I also need a way to like reach out to these people or for example, know like something about them that is important when I approach them, for example,
Hmm.
or stuff like that, and then also schedule them, right? Like know when I'll be featuring them and all that kind of stuff. And then there's also a section where I have this quality selector,
Hmm.
and so either I decide to feature them if it's really good, or if it's almost there, I'm putting potential there and
Hmm.
say basically what I do for these people is I try to go back to them and say, hey, I received your portfolio, it was good. But like for me to feature it, there's like a little bit of work I think you could do to get it like over the line. And then I basically give them like a mini review already so they can like work on it. But again, like to know who to approach and everything, it's just an insane amount of work. You can see that that is already quite big, that section. But it's really important for me to be able to go back to this and like see, and you can see there's a lot of people in here. Like there's so many portfolios in here. So I'm quite proud of this database that I built because at the end of the day, this also helps me um, sometimes go back when other juniors, for example, mentees, ask me, like, what are good examples of portfolios I can look at for a specific thing? And then I go to my past entries that I've already featured, and then I
Mhm.
start remembering, oh, yeah, there was this guy that did this really well. And otherwise, if I would have just like, do this week by week and just like not keep track of it, I would not know that anymore. Like it's impossible to remember all of that. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's something I'm proud of. And you should be in here actually. Let me go see if you're in here. Because if you're not, I did something wrong. I should have made you be in here.
Oh, I saw that.
Hey,
Yeah.
there you are. Here you are. Yeah. You
That's
were
cool.
featured October last year.
It's been
You
six
can
months. I cannot believe that. I still don't feel
yeah.
like it was that
It's
long ago.
crazy, yeah. It time flies. Yeah, but this is I'm definitely proud of this because like building a database like that, it takes time, takes like a lot of data, and so yeah, I'm really happy about this one
I
as
feel
well.
like
Yeah,
this is like a heritage. And it's
yeah,
almost like cyclopedia that like you would check the things, but now it's for the designers and specifically for portfolios. And I
yeah,
think one of the cool parts is that like you already use the tags and it's easy to scan to like I can understand. And even though I'm not creating this data or
yeah,
like I'm not creating the newsletters, but it's still easy to understand. And if I wanted to add something for each page, it's easy to add it. And like with a simple keywords, I can just find, oh, what was this portfolio about? Is that B2C, B2B, or enterprise?
yeah,
Like it's just, I don't know, the sky, what is that? The sky is limitless. The potential
yeah.
are
The
limitless.
sky's
So,
the limit. Yeah, exactly.
so that's definitely something to be proud of, I guess.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
awesome. If this is kind of a tricky question, and I will give an option to either of them. If you could add or remove one thing about Notion, what would be the most exciting change for you?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because
Um,
usually people asking like, "Oh, what would you like to add it?" But I really wanted to see. Maybe you want to remove something, something.
Oh, remove not. I think I mean, to be fair, I don't use Notion AI a lot. Like if they'd remove it tomorrow, I wouldn't be sad about it because it's like the AI that I use is mostly ChatGPT and then the coding tools that kind of do
Mm,
stuff for you. Um, and although I think Notion could help me sometimes with AI inside of the document, at the end of the day, copying stuff over from ChatGPT is just it's not that hard, so
mhm,
it's not a problem. So if I had to remove something, or if I had to pick one thing that needs to go, I would probably pick that because everything else I kind of use, I'd say, in one way or another. For example, what I didn't show you is like I also have an inspiration database where I keep a lot of
mhm,
design inspiration. It's like more visual board, for example. I also use it for that type of stuff sometimes. Um, but if I could add anything, so what I'm really still not so good at, and I think that is mostly due to the tools that I'm using are not necessarily supporting it super well, is like Notion connecting to other tools.
mhm,
Like, so for example, I have my platform OpenDoors runs on Webflow, and Webflow has a pretty powerful content management system. And I've been thinking about featuring these portfolios that I already feature in my newsletter
Hmm.
on my platform as well at some point. So I have like a gallery or something of the ones that were featured before.
Hmm.
And I have all the data here, right? We just saw it. And if I could just like push that automatically into Webflow, like
Hmm.
all the sets and like match it with my CMS, that would be great. I know this works with something like Zapier or Make. I know
Hmm.
that's possible, but those are other services. They cost money, extra money, and for that purpose, I don't think it's pretty worth it. So I would just love some more out of the box kind of like integrations where like you
Hmm.
can like set stuff up. And so yeah, I think that's probably my go-to. But that being said, like a Notion, like for example, I also use Notion Calendar.
Hmm.
Like I'm very happy with the Notion suite and like everything they put out. The mobile app as well. Like something like Notion is not necessarily easy to use on mobile, but I feel like the mobile app
Agree.
does a pretty good job of like solving a lot of these problems.
Hmm.
And so I'm very happy with Notion as it is. It doesn't need to change much for me, because yeah, as you can see, it kind of found its way into my life kind of organically already, and
Hmm.
so yeah, there isn't too much I would change. Yeah.
I think that's one of the important points that like if it's already integrated to your life in a different aspects, it's just it's still good to have good to add things or like improve things, but it's not necessarily I have like an obligation to do it. So yeah, I totally agree with that. That's a pretty cool perspective, and agree with Notion AI too. Like I feel the same. So okay, that's awesome. I kind of get the sense, but I will ask either way that like, what is the one Notion feature that you couldn't imagine this world would exist, and why?
Like like an impossible thing, or
Like
like something.
the most favorite thing you love about Notion,
Oh
and
yeah,
like
okay.
why is that?
The most thing I love most about Notion. Ah, that's a good question. Because like in Notion, everything is so connected, right? Um, and so like one thing benefits from the other, kind of.
Hmm.
And that's why it's so hard to pick something, honestly. But I think just the like the tagging basically, like select, so the select function. I know this is super basic actually because other tools have that too. Like there's other tools where you can give something a tag, but I work so much with it because once you like, for example, have my inspiration database,
Hmm.
it has different tags for like visual aspects or like, what, for example, what type of like what part of a website is the inspiration from? Like, is this a hero section? Is this some card UI? What is this? And then when you do that, when you use that, the amount of possibilities for you to filter for things in a second is like limitless. And that I think that I love so much about Notion because they make it so easy to set this up and
Hmm.
then so easy to work with it. And I feel like while I said other software has that too, generally, they make it like the easiest really. And it's
Hmm.
such a powerful thing. So yeah, I think if this is the thing I love the most is the select and multi-select field.
And I think all of like with all the perspective, it's also really how can I say that? Really hard to live it's real hard to live without text because it's also colorful, but not it's not creating a rainbow, it's not creating
Yeah,
inconsistency view, but it's just giving you the idea to like, okay, purple is for, I don't know, design system ideations, inspirations. Like yellow is for prototypes and whatever. And it's just
yeah.
easy to see and totally categorization is one of the important things to find with Select. And I actually find something really interesting about it. Some when I use that for same as you with the databases, some of the people don't use Notion, and I am working with them. I'm going to events with them, for example, right? And then I'm using that text as person because I know that like this is about that person. For example, a
Yeah.
camping checklist I did was like I tagged my friend's name in the select because none of them were using Notion. So to me, it was easy to understand and like see whose task, what's gonna do, what they're gonna do. So it was easy for me to use it.
Yeah.
Right. All right.
Yeah. 100%. Like I love like what you said about the colors. Like Notion, I think is a very plain product in terms of the visuals, which I like a lot. I'm kind of a little bit of a minimalist when it comes to software, I think, or UI, I think. But they do color coding right. Like, like they have the exact right colors to kind of like see stuff like
Mm-hmm.
at a glance, really. Like I think it's really well balanced. So yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, great.
Awesome. All questions are done.
All questions done. All
Yes.
right, that was a quick one.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much. That was awesome. Do you have
yeah, thank
last,
you.
oh, sorry. Do you have last piece of like things to share? Overall, it doesn't have to be Notion. You can share things about from your perspective as a product designer or for a Notion. But
Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's something I'd share in the end there. Like, uh, I mean, everyone who's listening to this probably is already using Notion, I suppose. But like, for me, there was this kind of aha moment where like I started using it for work and organizing my tasks to prioritize better and all that kind of stuff. And that was already like an aha moment and like, really kind of changed the way I work, I think.
Mhm.
But the real kind of wow moment that I had was like when I first started using it for something personal in my case. But I think the first time I planned like travel with it, I was like, oh my God, like I never realized how powerful this tool actually is for like everything that isn't work really and all the other stuff. And so I encourage you, if you're already using Notion, like think about other things in your life that you might like struggle with organizing stuff for and just try it with Notion really. Just give it a shot. Like if you're already using it for one thing and you kind of like grown fond of it and you are already like you already figured out how it works and everything, like you'll be very quick to apply it to something completely different. Like
Mhm.
that's the cool thing. You can apply the same principles to 1,000 things and it just works. And like, wait, maybe not in every single one of those cases, but like in a vast majority. So definitely give it a shot. That's
That's
what I'd
awesome.
like to end on.
That's a good wrap up, actually. Like all over, you just explained the whole soft like SaaS world. I feel that like you can do a bunch of things. What you want to do, what you want to do, and what are the important things that you actually want to implement for your life. I like this one. Awesome. Thank you for very much for this episode, and yeah, see you in another time.
Yeah. See you another time. All right. Thanks, Marai. Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye.